Hello, good morning. Welcome to early capitalism o'clock, except that's a lie, it's late capitalism. That's where we are. Hey, um, yeah, welcome to Surviving Capitalism as a crafter or artist. I know a lot of people who attend kanji are, you make cosplay, you work in Artist Alley, you do all sorts of really cool things. And so this panel is for you, whether or not you currently sell things or want to sell things. This is for anyone trying to sell your creative work without burning out or underpricing themselves into oblivion, because we like you here. Yeah, so if you saw this panel last year, a lot of it is the same, a lot of it has been updated, but math is still math, and the math part is still going to be the same. But it's now 2026, and we're dealing just sort of with gestures broadly. But also there's a lot more. There's a lot of AI slop flooding everybody's feeds and marketplaces. Temu is now a competitor to craftspeople, which it's not, but here we are. Eating the rich for breakfast on a Saturday. Yes, heck yes, that's what we're gonna do today. And like everything is fast fashion, everything should be cheap and immediate, and you're trying to fight the algorithm every day. So today, this is basically about surviving all of that as best we can while still making work you believe in, products you care about, and art that is for the world. Minor content warning, there may be some swears, depending on how worked up I get. It is morning. So about me, I'm Caitlin. I made fleece hats in college and managed to graduate college without debt. University was a different story. University was a lot more expensive, but I continued to grow that business. I've had multiple handmade businesses, some of them even worked, and by worked, I mean they did not lose money, which is honestly a small victory in handmade business land. I did handmade soap as Good Williams. I launched that right as the pandemic was starting, and literally every person on earth was starting a handmade business on the internet. So not the best place to start, and yet I took my own advice, and so I actually made money and didn't lose money there. I'm also probably older than you, which is fun and good. It means I have made mistakes and you can learn from them. Okay, so no, you have to actually click on it. There you go. If we're going to talk about surviving capitalism, we should probably define it first, right? So capitalism isn't just buying and selling things. People buy and sell things in lots of economic systems. Capitalism is a system where capital, means of production, is privately owned, workers are paid wages, and workers usually do not own the business or own the profits from the business. And we're not going to get into a full history lecture today. I am not an economics teacher, as you can obviously tell, but it sort of helps to separate two ideas. So capitalism is sort of the framework, the rules, the system that we live within. Commerce, the day-to-day act of buying and selling, is currently within the system of capitalism, but is not the same as it. All right. So capitalism is your theme park. It is your design of the theme park, the pricing, the rules. You must be this tall to ride the ride. Commerce is people buying tickets and riding rides within the system, in the amusement park. So selling your art is not automatically the same as endorsing every part of the economic system, but the system does shape what people expect, what gets rewarded, and how makers are pressured to act within the system. So your definition, straight from Investopedia: capitalism is an economic system in which private individuals or business own capital goods. Capital goods are physical assets the company uses in the production process to manufacture goods and services for consumers. They're things that are not directly used by the consumer. They aren't the end product, but they are used to facilitate the production. So The store is a capital good, the physical store, the factory, the cash register, the lighting are capital goods. And at the same time, business owners employ workers who receive wages. Labor doesn't own the means of production, here we are, but instead uses them on behalf of owners of the capital. So the worker shows up and performs labor in exchange for money. They don't own the cash register, they don't own the factory, but they use those things to produce goods and sales for the owner class. So capitalism depends on the enforcement of private property rights, which provides incentive for investment in and productive use of capital. Capitalism was developed out of feudalism and mercantilism and dramatically expanded the industrialization and large scale availability of mass market consumer goods. And TLDR, now we're here. Like I said, it's not to be confused with commerce. Commerce is separate. Um, and the difference between the two, why the difference between capitalism and commerce matters, is because selling your art is not automatically the same thing as endorsing every part of the economic system that we're in. But we live here for now. This is the system that we have. This is the system we need to work within. So how do you survive it while you're here? Because like I said, it shapes what people expect, what gets rewarded, and how makers are pressured to price things lower or price things unfairly. And what can you do about that? So this is the part where a lot of makers get stuck, right? So you see questions like, how can I charge money for doing something that I love? How can I price things so that everyone can afford them? People complain my price is too high already. Who would actually pay for this? And now we're also dealing with like AI slop, Temu, products that aren't even real is what we're competing against, because someone will see, oh, I can buy this sweater for $4. Not to mention it's actually just a t-shirt with a sweater pattern printed on it, but also that t-shirt shouldn't be $4, but here we are. And so everyone expects instant shipping, low prices. What do I do? So this is very real. And so a lot of makers will turn online, try and find some pricing advice. It is either vague, it's exploitative, it's based on mass production, and you're probably not going to make 500 wigs. You're going to make one wig to try and sell at Artist Alley. Or, you'd probably do that on a commission, but you're not doing 500. Or this advice is just otherwise disconnected from the reality of handmade goods. And so basically our goal within this system is not to become a ruthless business goblin. The goal is to price your work in a way that is sustainable, ethical, but also grounded in reality. All right. And I do want to be extremely clear. You do not compete with Temu by becoming Temu. You don't take the goods that you're producing and charge pennies for them and then imagine that you're going to survive. Does your landlord accept pennies? I mean, we don't even have those anymore, but you can't beat factory pricing by pretending you are a factory. You are not a factory. You are not a robot yet, question mark. That road leads in burnout, resentment, and bad math, and usually people giving up on their handmade dream. So profit, it's a thing we need. What is it? Profit describes the financial benefit realized when revenue generated from a business activity exceeds the expenses, costs, and taxes involved in sustaining the activity in question, also known as the money left over. So handmade products are supposed to be about authenticity and care, and under capitalism, this is often reduced to a price tag and a profit margin. So what do? First, you pay yourself a living wage. And please repeat after me, pay yourself a living wage, all right? You are pouring your heart, creativity, and countless hours of your life into every piece that you make, all right? Your labor isn't just a cost, it is a valuable expression of your skills and your passion and your dreams. When you charge what you are truly worth, you are not only supporting yourself, but you are challenging a system that has long ignored the true value of creative work. All right. Chat says you can't compete with evil. Absolutely. So don't bother. Evil will win, so just be good. If you hire someone else to work for you, pay them a living wage too, all right? Obviously, but every person contributing to your craft deserves fair compensation. By ensuring that your team, however big or small that may be, is paid what they deserve, you build a more ethical, respectful, and sustainable work environment. So this is about lifting everyone up, everyone gets paid, rather than just squeezing profits out of the back of the business. And um, you can consider alternate methods of payment. So profit sharing, co-ownership, flat salaries. These models distribute the rewards more equitably within a business, but we're not really going to go into different business models because, for the most part, crafters at this stage, it's you in your hands, and you're doing your work. Whether it's digital art, sewing something, building something, sculpting out of clay, whatever it is, it's often just you to start out with. So another way to sort of help this system is think about offering an affordable item subsidized by your other products, right? So maybe not everyone can afford a premium price, and that's okay, especially given how other wages are around here lately. By creating a range of offerings, you can ensure that more people can access your art without compromising your commitment to fair wages and quality. So just remember that the cheaper an item is, the more you'll need to subsidize it with your other work. So you'll need to take that into account with your pricing formula. For example, if you're an artist, whether you're a digital artist or a physical artist, you may be selling prints. All right. A big print might be $40, might be $80. But what if you made a sticker version? It could be as low as $2. So people could still enjoy your art for $2, even if they don't have $80 available, because you'll have built into the math of the $80 product to support a lower priced something like a sticker. Um, Sometimes for non-artists, it can be a little bit harder. Yeah, see, you get so many stickers. Stickers are I love getting stickers. It's a small little thing, and to support the artist, but also you get a little piece of art to take home. You can put it in a notebook. You can put it on your wall. You can put it on your face, I guess. I'm not your mom. Um, so for non-artists, it can be a little bit harder to think of um, what your affordable item can be sometimes. What if you make props? You could, or like in my case, I made soap, and I was like, how do I make like, it's only so small you can make a piece of soap, right? Um, but it was suggested, okay, I wasn't an artist, so I never actually got through this one, but I could have a cute drawing of one of my soaps, a little, I'll see you in the shower text on it. That would be kind of a cute sticker. That might be worth a couple bucks. Um, and for things like cosplayers, um, you might be selling prints of yourself. Postcards are a great alternative option if you don't want something like a sticker, because it's literally just a smaller version of like a print, right? So something like that can be very affordable. Um, if you really want to sort of level the playing field and allow everyone to access your product somehow, you can offer a free product. And the best way to make that a good use of your time so that you still get paid for everything else, offer like free digital downloads, a phone wallpaper, uh, a little gift set or something. And then boom, everyone can afford free. So there you go. So you've sort of covered all your bases there. But basically, by paying yourself and your team a living wage, by exploring fair pricing models and offering options to fit a multiple range of budgets, you're not just surviving in this capitalist system, you're actually challenging it rather than just trying to squeeze every cent of profit you can. You are proving that authenticity and care can be the foundation of a stable and ethical business. So, for the purposes of this discussion, we are going to include profit in our calculations because, yes, you have to build it in. It doesn't just magically happen, unfortunately. So profit can be reinvested into the business or put to other uses. So it doesn't just have to be you sitting on a dragon hoard of gold. But let's be real, none of us is getting a dragon hold right now anyway. So I mentioned a living wage. What's a living wage? A lot of people have heard about it. I think more people have heard about it these days, but what is it specifically? So a living wage is the income needed to cover essential expenses like housing, food, healthcare, and transportation without falling into poverty. That is the um, official definition. So unlike the minimum wage, it is based on local costs, so it changes based on where you are. And it ensures a decent standard of living with little extras for unforeseen needs. So the official living wage calculations include food, clothing, shelter, childcare, transportation, medical expenses, recreation, and a modest vacation. Okay, so first of all, a modest vacation is included in the calculation of a living wage. You should be able to take a vacation. You don't have to be jetting to France, but like take a week off and do something nice is built into this calculation. So as you can see, this is map of southwestern Ontario. It's very small on my screen, so I can't actually read it. But the value changes based on where you are. And so obviously the GTA has a higher livable wage than some of the other locations. But then since I'm in Alberta, I also put up an Alberta map. And it just shows you the difference in location and how much you would need to live a decent life. But there are some things that the living wage does not include, these official calculations. So it doesn't include retirement savings, debt repayment, home ownership costs, saving for children's education, or anything really beyond a small cushion set aside for emergencies. So even with all the things that it takes into account, including a modest vacation, that still isn't the end all be all. So it doesn't actually account for everything you need to thrive, but it is still better than the minimum wage. So the goal here is when you price your products, pay yourself a living wage at minimum. If you can build it into your products to make a little bit better, you can save for, save enough for your debt repayment, retirement savings. What's retirement? You should be able to do that. And the point is, do the math to see how you can work that in. Because burnout is not a business model. All right. If you were thinking that would be a viable way to do business, let me tell you right now, no. Kidding though, no one was thinking that, but it happens so much in the handmade community. And I also just want to be clear that your wages for labor and your profit are not the same thing. Typo, fantastic. You need to get paid for your time and make a profit. So profit is not automatically greed, all right? Profit supports good things. It supports paying yourself, paying your helpers, replacing your tools, restocking your materials, creating stability for yourself, reducing burnout, and you can build in donation and giving back to your community within your pricing model. Like I said, your wages for labor and your profit are separate things. They aren't the same thing. Paying yourself for the hours that you work is not an extra. It's not a fancy frill. This is labor compensation, and all labor should be compensated. Profit is what helps the business remain alive and not just collapse the minute something goes wrong. I do it for love. I charge just enough to keep doing it. Can absolutely coexist, but you do need to do the math. Use a living wage as your baseline in your pricing, not the minimum wage, and come back to your math regularly to recheck your pricing. If your costs went up and your prices didn't, you kind of accidentally just gave yourself a pay cut, and maybe a pay cut for everyone who works for you too. So pricing your products, my favorite way is actually based on Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. So it's actually pretty simple, other than you have to actually sit down and do it. So you want to list every single ingredient used to make your product. If you're making soap, that is all your oils, your butters, the supplies you had to purchase. If you're sewing something, that is your thread, that is the replacement pack of bobbins you had to buy when you accidentally crushed all yours. That is just every little piece, all right? Every single ingredient. You might not use every single ingredient or tool for every product, but that's what our spreadsheet is for. So you also want to include the time and the labor it takes to make those products. And then you want to do the math to make sure the numbers work out. So your traditional way of thinking of profit is sales minus expenses. What's left over is profit, right? Personally, I like profit first because what it does is it says sales, take away your profit equals what is left to spend on expenses. And it's just sort of twisting it around in your head a little bit, just to make sure everything is covered. Because if profit is whatever is left over, there's often nothing left over. Stuff comes up, it disappears into materials, emergencies, random business spendings. It disappears into, oh, I'll fix this later. Spoilers, it's never later. If profit is allocated intentionally, then it will actually exist. All right. And this is especially helpful now because sales can be so inconsistent these days, can be very emotionally chaotic. You can have one good month can trick you into overspending, and one bad month can make you panic. So I'll get into this a little bit later. Separate bank accounts, different buckets can be helpful to categorize your money and separate it for you when you're dealing with it. Virtual buckets or budgeting system. And you want to give your money jobs once you bring it in. And then this will go into a little bit more detail later, but you need to taxes, your pay, your profit. Again, those are separate. Operating expenses, materials, etc. So as you'll learn, see later, money with names and goals behaves better than money in one mystery pile. You see a big pile of money in your bank account and you think, sweet, I can go buy an extra ticket to that con that I'm going to, or maybe I can do a table here. But you kind of forgot to account that, oh yeah, some of that was for my pay, which is just supposed to go to pay my bills. And some of that's supposed to be paying for someone who's helping me. It's easier if it's categorized. So what's one of the things you got to categorize for? Taxes. Yay, everyone's favorite. So taxes are real. Taxes are undefeated. There are always taxes. You just got to deal with it. So what you want to do is you want to set aside tax money as you earn it, as you bring in every sale. Don't wait until tax time and then act surprised. All right. Future you deserves better than that because you deserve better than that. So Canada has what is called a progressive tax system, meaning that your income is divided into separate brackets, and then each bracket is taxed at a different rate. Okay. So this means that not all of your income is taxed at the same percentage. Only the income that falls within each bracket is taxed at that bracket's rate. So I pulled the federal tax rates for 2026. If you earn, say, $60,000, which is, great in the crafting world, amazing. So say $60,000. The first 58,523 of it is charged 14%. And then only the remainder, the last $1,500 will be taxed at the next bracket, 20.5. So you're just because you're into the second tax bracket, your whole amount is not charged by that 20.5%. So sometimes people think, oh, if I make more money, I'll get taxed more, and then they panic, and that's not actually how it works here. But even though that's not how it works here, you still need to plan for taxes, okay? You need to set aside your money regularly for taxes. You need to not spend it because it doesn't belong to you. You're just holding on to it. So you need to make sure that you have it when the tax man comes calling. All right, so what you can do when you're reviewing your sales and your finances, you could have a monthly money maintenance date to just sort of reconcile your sales, any fees, receipts that you've brought in, and your taxes. So your future self will be much less stressed if you just put in this little bit of work ahead of time. They will be dramatically less haunted by taxes as they come in. So this is where a spreadsheet becomes your best friend. All right. The goal is not perfect math on day one. The goal is just to stop pricing based on vibes or based on panic or based on guilt or based on random advice from someone online who has never sold anything handmade in their entire life and wants you to buy their 17-part course. In other news, I have a 17-part course available. No, I don't. Also, platforms train us to compare our prices to impossible nonsense. All right. Do not let the algorithm and comparison to Temu decide what your labor is worth. Does it make sense to put aside 20% each time you pay yourself? Short answer, yes. Long answer, depends on where your tax bracket lies. That is what we are getting to. Can we eat the taxes? I wish we could eat the taxes. Okay, so let's see if my little link works. No, that would be too easy. Did that one actually change? Hooray! Okay, so I've made this little pricing table. You might have seen it last year. This is sort of the abbreviated, prettyified version. But honestly, I made this spreadsheet once and then I used it for years. I updated it, but once you create it or find a template that you can use, you can just sort of plug in your numbers and change it. So it looks a little complicated to start. But what I've tried to do here is I've shown a list of a handful of possible ingredients. All right, so this is obviously not everything I used to use, but when I made soap, here are some. So coconut oil, beeswax, cocoa butter, peppermint essential oil. I used label papers. I used a wax pellet for sealing, water, and labor, which is me. Ooh. I got rid of that part of my browser, so I'm not sure. I'm pausing because Lindsay's telling me to zoom in, and it is not working. I've lost my I turned off all my like little browser tabs so that they wouldn't show on the thing, and now I don't have my embiggen button. Is it don't throw off the groove? Okay, better? Now that I found the slow way to get there. All right, back to spreadsheets. So yes. Thank you for the suggestion, Coordinator Lindsay. And the idea here was to show you that I listed a bunch of things over here, but then, for example, in the sample bar, I've only taken a couple. So I've highlighted them in colors so you can see this sample body butter. It was a hand lotion bar. Didn't include a label paper or a wax pellet, didn't include any water, but it includes some other stuff down here. So, for example, I split this out every time I received product. So I'd have my container cost, which included shipping, because shipping is a cost that you pay. Don't forget about it. If you buy something for $50 and it costs $6 to ship, you bought it for $56. That's how much it costs you. And so then they say the container size, mine was in grams. And so then my dollar per gram, these prices are pretty cheap. These are less than a penny per gram of item because I was buying large quantities, but that still adds up, right? So over here, you can see I used 180 grams of coconut oil. And at this price, 180 times 0.004 is, this is about 80 cents. I used $2.25 worth of beeswax. I used $6.41.5 cents. Yes, and also gas when out purchasing. Those are all. I tracked my gas and stuff separately, and mostly I sat in my house and ordered things on the internet. But yeah, you have to actually count all those. Those are all costs that you pay, and therefore they're all costs that you need to cover. So for this example bar, a batch cost me $10.87 in literally just physical product in the ingredients used to make it, and I could get 12 bars from that. Okay, so what does that tell me? The way I packaged this was I had a little tin, put it in a tin. My labor cost, as you can see, I put that over here. It's obviously not in dollars per gram, but whatever. It's a cost that it's a spreadsheet. And so to make this, it took about $3 of my labor and my time here. So this would be how long it took to make a batch, times it by $20 an hour, which is too low. So I obviously haven't updated this spreadsheet. But it got me to $3 in labor cost. So, okay, where does that go? What that sort of makes out is that a cost of goods, COG, per bar ended up at $2.86. So there are a lot of quick and dirty formulas you can find on the internet, whether it's just, it's take your cogs times 2 or take your cogs times 4 and there's your final product. And those aren't wrong per se, they're just a little sloppier, and because they're more rules of thumb, and that even then that assumes that you basically did all this to get your cost of goods. So when pricing, if you have goals of like getting your products into a store, or like even the type of store where you have your own little booth in there, but the store takes a cut, you need to account for that in your pricing now. Otherwise, if you suddenly got into a store and then had to jack up all your prices everywhere else because you didn't do the math the first time, people are going to be more mad and more upset at that than if you just had reasonable prices in the first place. Not a product placement. So in this example, where this was going is cost of goods. So based on my own experience, my own math, my wholesale price would be roughly 2.1 times my cost of goods. And that's getting a little into the nitpicky math, but it accounted for the double cost of goods and then a little bit of buffer just for things, because prices will always slightly vary. You might need to spend more on shipping sometime, just because I built a little buffer into my math. That happened to, in this case, make a wholesale price of a nice round number, because you need to make money at wholesale costs. All right. If you are not making money at wholesale, you cannot sell wholesale. That seems a little bit obvious, but if you're not making money at wholesale, why are you selling wholesale? Like, just don't. If you don't want to price your products this way, you don't have to, but it does mean that you can't sell wholesale to stores if that's your goal. And so also in terms of my calculation, I also just did 2.1 times to get my retail price. So essentially, I roughly follow that guideline online. You take your cost of goods and you double it to get wholesale, you double your wholesale to get retail. Now, why do you double wholesale and retail? Honestly, industry expectation, but also because it does cover costs. But if you sell a product for $10, any store you go to will basically expect you to sell it to them for 50% of that price. That is called Keystone. It is your general average. Sometimes if you get a very good store that is used to buying handmade artisan products, they may accept less than Keystone. They may accept, like, say, a 40% discount or the like. You should price to be able to do a 50% discount for wholesale, because that's what people will expect. I've seen so many crafters want to get into wholesale and they'll go, oh, I can sell it 10% off. No store is going to buy that because they need to cover their own costs. They need to cover their retail staff, is that, where did that sound come from? They need to cover their costs, and they can't do it with a 10% discount, even if the crafter thinks that's generous because they're not making as much money, and it's not going to happen. It's one of those, the thing that we have to live in the structure of capitalism, so we do have to play by some of these rules. So in this case, to sort of get back to the math, my cost of goods was $2.86. My math made it a nice, neat $6 for wholesale, but that same math made kind of a funny price, $12.59. Honestly, what I would just do is I would round that to $12, because that's more comfortable for both the consumer. And this is part of why I add that 0.1, 2.1 rather than 2, is because now I can sell to a consumer for $12. I can easily sell to a store for $6, and I'm still covering costs of labor. I'm still covering a bit of profit to be able to, do what we said previously, put it back into the system or whatever. And that 2.1 method lets me just not worry about that 59 cents. I don't have to go, oh no, my 59 cents, I need it to pay, I don't know, my evil landlord or whatever with his little snidely whiplash mustache. Bonus points if anyone gets that reference, please. Okay, so you do your spreadsheet and you calculate this for every single product you do, whether that's you're making dice, making clay jewelry, making shirts, making cosplay, making whatever you're making. You do this math for every single product that you do because they will all be different. And then it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to price your products for the real world. Is that wholesale cost technically breaking even? In my case, no, because I have included the price of my labor and time. Or sorry, yeah, I've included the price of my labor. So even if I was paying someone else to do it, that's covered by the price of my cost of goods, which is covered by my wholesale. So after you've done all of this, what do you do? Well, money comes in. Fantastic. I sold a bar. I got $12. Fantastic. What do I do with it? Do I shove it in my pocket? Honestly, yes. But what you should be doing is separating it out, because like I said, taxes are a thing you have to set money aside for. Profit is a thing you need to set money aside for. All of these should happen first before you actually have a little pile of money to go buy like other supplies. Is this still big? Yes, it is. So TAPS. TAPS is the thing I talked about in Profit First. It's talked about in a lot of other places now at this point. And it just stands for target allocation percentages, which is how much of each dollar that you bring in goes to cover what. And this will kind of depend on your situation specifically, the type of business you're running, what tax bracket you're in, because are you also working a full-time job while you do your crafting? Then you are taxed at a different rate than if you are literally just doing your crafting and don't hit, say, the second tax bracket. So how I've got mine set up here, very, very basic. All of these percentages add up to 100. You can sort of jimmy yours around a little bit, but I've got profit set to 5%. Ideally, that would be higher, but I was still sort of working through this and making sure that I could have everything covered. So for every bar that I sell, 60 whole cents. That's my profit, baby. This is the big capitalist grab. 60 cents of profit. And I've set aside, in my particular case, 25% for taxes, because I was doing this at the time when I was also working full-time. So I had to account for being in the tax bracket I was in and not the tax bracket I would be just doing handmade sales. So I've set aside $3 of that $12 for taxes. I put them aside. I do not look at that account. It just exists over here. And if I'm thinking about, oh, how much money do I have? Can I afford to sign up for that craft fair next month? That money doesn't even enter into the equation. It's out of sight, out of mind until I need to do taxes, and then away it goes. So compensation, this is my pay. So or say I was paying someone else to do it for each bar that's sold, technically 5% is set aside. It's that same 60 cents, same 60 cents amounts that I had for profit, but I've got it down here as compensation, regardless of who is doing that work. Because one of the traps that a lot of handmade artisans get into is thinking of their own labor as free. First of all, it's not free. You are worth money, you are worth time, and you are putting in effort. So it's not free. But also, if they say, oh, I'm just doing it, I don't have to account for my labor, as soon as they get someone to help them, as soon as they get big enough to, maybe hire on, not necessarily staff, but hire on a someone by contract, piecework or something, their entire pricing structure has fallen apart because they didn't account for it when they were doing it. Like, not only should you get paid, anyone you employ has to get paid. They're not going to go do it out of the goodness of their heart because they still have bills to pay. They still have to buy groceries, and you have to make sure everyone's compensated. So build this in now so that if you need to outsource, you can, and that person is paid fairly. And also in the meantime, you are paid fairly. So sort of move on because I see we are getting close to time. I've got operations at 35%. So $4.20 set aside for that. And the material costs to sort of cover that is $3.60. So roughly, yeah, so the idea is, so your operations are things like, if you sell on Etsy, you have Etsy fees. If you have your own website, you have hosting fees. Maybe you have, you use Stripe, there's some Stripe fees. Everything has a fee, and you do have to sort of take into account. I, once upon a time, made a whole huge spreadsheet of everything that I paid for, whether it's a subscription cost or a transaction fee or that kind of thing, and sort of worked out on a monthly basis what I had to pay. Even if I made no sales, I was still paying those subscriptions. And that's how I ended up at my 35%. So these percentages may be different from you. This is a good starting point, especially if you haven't done it before. Ideally, you'd love to get profit around 10 or 15%. But at that point, obviously you do need to be doing more volume at that point. So it is a lot easier as a crafter to be making a smaller profit, but you do still need to be making profit. I think that's all about that. So, okay, did that change? I hope so. So why go through all these spreadsheets? Why do all these things? Your products are worth it. You are worth it. And you need to get paid what you deserve. So we deserve a living wage for our craft, right? It isn't just a hobby. It is our blood, sweat, tears. It is our passion. It is our joy. And it's poured into this product. And so the system forces us to underprice half the time because people don't have a handle on how much things should cost. And that doesn't undermine just our art, but it undermines our dignity. So, yeah, it is not elitist. You and your products are worth it. I'm not kidding. They are. Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? You are worth it. Your products are worth it. Charge what you're worth. Everyone in this, if you follow all these profits or these calculations, everyone working for you is also paid enough. So this is charging what you're worth is a way to honor your own effort and expertise. All right. It is an investment in yourself as an artist, because every piece you create represents hours of practice, hours of learning, and your creativity and skill. So your craft is unique. It is handmade. It isn't something that comes off some assembly line. It is not AI slop. It is not your Temu products. The attention to detail, the quality materials, the personal touch you add sets it apart from all mass-produced goods, and that is worth paying for. In general, just as a concept, what you are doing is worth paying for. When you charge a fair price, you're not just making a sale. You're creating a sustainable business model. You're helping support, be the change you want to see in the world. All right. It lets you reinvest in better tools, materials, or even training. This growth benefits you and your community. If you're paying someone else for training, you are now supporting their livelihood as well. It helps fight wage stagnation on a very small level. We do what we can, but it does help. Undercharging contributes to a system where labor isn't valued and where wage stagnation remains the norm. We are currently going through a very intense period of wage stagnation. It has gone on for a few decades. And by pricing your work appropriately, you are doing what you can to take a small stand for fair wages, not only for yourself, but for anyone you hire, which can help drive broader change within our community and within our practices. So high quality, ethical production costs more. All right, it does. If you need a shirt that costs $4, well, no one got paid enough for that shirt. All right. This is one of the reasons I like thrifting shirts, but that's technically outside the scope of this. When you set a fair price for your products, you can afford to pay yourself and your helpers a living wage. This commitment to ethical practices challenges models like fast fashion from companies like Shein or Temu, which I wrote in my notes, which often underpays workers, but I'm pretty sure it's a little more than often. But I'm not in that situation. So fair pricing isn't just about covering costs. It does also signal to your customers that your handmade work, your handmade craftsmanship is a premium. It attracts those who appreciate genuine craftsmanship and are willing to invest in quality, which does distinguish you from cheaper alternatives. And there is a little bit of a balance there. Your products aren't signaling quality just because you charge $500 for something. It's not the price tag. It is the mathematical foundation of where you're coming from and the value you can project with your products to your customers. So you also want to be this is all part of like investing in your future as well. All right. If your craft is just a hobby, but maybe it's something you want to be your career, or maybe it is your career. And sorry, when you charge what you're worth, you are setting the stage for future opportunities. All right. Whether that is expanding your product line, collaborating with other artists, or even exploring innovative payment models like profit sharing or co-ownership. Build your little craft empire and build it on an ethical foundation. And that helps so many people, including you. It also helps empower the creative community in general. By valuing your work, you're also empowering other makers. Your pricing can inspire community-wide movement in which fair compensation becomes the norm. I mean, we can hope. When one artist charges a fair price, it sets an example for others. And this is all information that you need to both internalize and also sort of be able to redirect to a customer. They're like, oh, why is your product this expensive? And it's like, well, because everyone involved is paid an ethical wage. And it sort of just helps drive the idea that fair pricing isn't selfish, it isn't elitist. It's a necessary step towards sustainable, ethical labor, and ultimately a more respectful and empowered creative community. Yes. Once again, yes, heck, your products are worth it. So trust me, they are good enough. You are good enough. Handmade is not an assembly line. It follows a different logic. Fast fashion and mass marketplaces have kind of trained people at this point to expect low prices, constant novelty, instant fulfillment, and disposable quality. And that's generally not how handmade is. Handmade is slower. It is smaller scale. It is more thoughtful. It is more personal. It is usually better made. That is not a failure. That is a different category of value. You are not failing because you cannot produce at a factory scale. You are a maker. You are not a warehouse. You are not a factory. And so some people will still choose the cheapest option, and that doesn't mean your pricing is wrong. It means that they are not the customer for your item. The right customers do exist, and your job is to price and present your work so that they can recognize the value that they see. So conclusions, what have we learned? Your products are worth it, all right? You want to use math, not vibes. You want to pay yourself a living wage. You want to pay everyone involved a living wage. You want to plan for taxes. You want to keep profit on purpose, not by accident. And you want to build accessibility to your products through structure, not just like self-sacrificing and pricing your products incorrectly. You do not want to race Temu or AI slop or fast fashion pricing to the bottom. You are not a failed factory. You are a maker. The product is valuable, so you should price like it. Question time. If anyone has any questions. Thank you so much for this. I would buy your 17-part course and remember to expense it as R&D. Yes, perfect. Yes. If you don't think you're worth it, remember that you underpricing drives down everyone else's prices too, because everyone will look around and say, oh, well, this person sells it for $5, even if you can't pay yourself a living wage for less than $9. You know, people are price sensitive, especially these days. Can we get your presentation somewhere? I can share the slide deck, and it does include the link to my spreadsheet that I did offer last year. It's the same spreadsheet, but I can do it. We're working on teaching our kid makers this. Yes, you know who, like, kids already for the most part understand that they have intrinsic value. And so just sort of building on that is always very good, to sort of go, hey, these are some things to take into consideration, just because you got your supplies for, you know, one price, that doesn't directly inform your total price. Thank you for having me. Kanji is great. Everyone should go watch the rest of Kanji today and tomorrow.